I thought the worst betrayal I'd ever face would happen on a battlefield. Turns out it was watching a video of my little brother wearing my military uniform soaking up a standing ovation for a deployment he never even served. You know that moment when your whole stomach just drops? Like, 1 second you're standing there, living your life, and the next it's like the floor's been ripped right out from under you. That was me. In my kitchen. Holding my phone. Watching a video that made my heart twist into a knot so tight I thought it might never come undone. Let me back up. I'm 28 years old, Army National Guard, just finished my 3rd deployment overseas last fall. Nothing glamorous, dusty FBs, bad coffee, nights spent missing home so bad it hurt. I grew up in Ohio, oldest of 3, and if you had told me back in high school that someday I'd be the responsible one, I would have laughed right in your face. But life happens fast. Our dad took off when we were kids, mom worked 2 jobs to keep a roof over our heads, and I guess somewhere along the line, I just stepped up. My little brother Noah, he's 22 now, was always the wild one. Smart, sure, but lazy. Full of jokes, big plans, and absolutely zero follow-through. If I was steady like a train on tracks, Noah was a firework shooting off in every direction. He still lives back home, working part-time at a bar and working on his music career, whatever that means this week. I always loved the kid even when he drove me crazy. I figured he'd find his way eventually. He's young. Right? Wrong. So wrong. That night, I was just finishing dinner when my buddy Luke sent me a text. Bro, you seeing this? Face with tears of joy, attached was a video. No caption. No warning. I clicked play without thinking, still chewing a bite of leftover lasagna. The screen opened to a packed bar, country music blaring in the background. At first, I didn't recognize the place. Then the camera zoomed in and there he was. Noah. Wearing my uniform. Not a cheap Halloween knockoff either. My actual, real army dress uniform. Patches. Ribbons. My name tag barely visible under the flashing lights. The medals I earned with blood, sweat, and tears shining on his chest like props. My jaw literally dropped. I froze, fork halfway to my mouth. The crowd was clapping, whistling, some people even standing up. A woman with a microphone, maybe a bartender, was shouting something about a true hero coming home and let's show him some love for his sacrifice. And there he was, smiling, waving, drinking it all in. Like it was his story to tell. Like he hadn't spent my last deployment getting drunk at backyard bonfires while I ate MREs and prayed every day I'd see my family again. I slammed my fork down so hard it clattered onto the floor. No, I muttered, my heart hammering against my ribs. No. I scrubbed a hand over my face, replaying the video again like maybe it would change the second time. Maybe I'd notice it was a costume party. Maybe it was a joke. Some stupid misunderstanding. But no. Clear as day, my kid brother standing on a makeshift stage, holding up a beer, basking in applause he hadn't earned. Someone even handed him a free shot. He toasted to it. That's when it hit me, the betrayal wasn't just that he wore the uniform. It was that he wore my life. Like a costume. Like it was something he could put on for one night, get some free drinks, and then shrug off when he was done. I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. The video ended with Noah raising both arms like a champ crossing a finish line. The caption below read, "Local hero back from the Middle East. First round on the house. United States clinking beer mugs." Local hero? My hands shook as I set the phone down. I just sat there for a long time, staring at nothing, feeling like the world had tilted sideways and I didn't know how to stand up straight anymore. Because in that moment, something inside me cracked. And I knew this wasn't something I could just laugh off. This was a line he should never have crossed. And he crossed it wearing my name on his chest. I didn't sleep that night. I sat in my kitchen with the overhead light buzzing and flickering every few minutes, like even the house knew something wasn't right. My mind kept replaying that video, Noah beaming, soaking up the cheers. Every whoop and holler from that crowd scraped across my nerves like sandpaper on raw skin. At around 2 in the morning, I finally picked up my phone. I didn't text him. I didn't call. I just stared at his contact photo, a goofy picture we'd taken years ago at a Browns game, back when things between us were still simple. Back when he still looked up to me before whatever this was. I wanted to give him the benefit of the doubt. Maybe someone dared him. Maybe he got drunk and made a stupid mistake. Maybe he'd be horrified when he realized what he'd done. I told myself a lot of maybes to try to protect him. But deep down, I knew. He liked it. He liked being treated like a hero without doing any of the bleeding, sweating, aching work it took to become one. I finally cracked around 8 a.m. I threw on a hoodie, laced up my boots, and got in my truck. The drive to Mom's house, Noah's house now, was about 20 minutes, but it felt like I crossed a desert by the time I pulled into the driveway. Mom's car wasn't there. Good. I didn't want her in the middle of this. I stormed up the steps, heart pounding hard enough to rattle my ribs, and pounded on the door. Loud enough that the neighbor's dog started barking. A minute later, the door swung open. Noah stood there, bleary-eyed, hair sticking up in every direction. He was wearing a wrinkled t-shirt and gym shorts, clutching a can of Monster like it was the only thing keeping him alive. "Bro," he croaked. "What are you doing here so early?" I didn't even step inside. I held up my phone, still open to the video. I watched his face go from confusion to recognition to something like sheepishness. He laughed. He laughed. "Dude," he said, running a hand through his hair. "That? Come on, it was just for fun." My whole body stiffened. "For fun," I repeated, my voice low and cold. "You wore my uniform. You let people believe you served." He shrugged, leaning casually against the doorframe like we were just having a casual Sunday morning chat. "I mean, it's not like I told them anything. They just assumed. What was I supposed to do, correct them and ruin the vibe?" I stared at him, disbelief burning in my chest like a bonfire. "You stood there," I said slowly, "and accepted applause for sacrifices you didn't make. You drank on it. You took free drinks on it. You let people believe you were in places you'd never even seen. It's not that big a deal," Noah said, rolling his eyes. "You're making it weird." "Not that big I cut myself off, squeezing my fists so tight my knuckles went white. "You disrespected every single person who's ever worn that uniform for real. People who didn't make it back. People who have scars they'll carry for the rest of their lives. People who," my voice broke just a little and I hated how it sounded. "People like me." Noah's face tightened. "God, man, why do you always have to make everything about you?" he snapped, shoving his hands into his pockets. "It was just a stupid bar thing. Nobody cares. Get over it." I stepped forward so close he had to lean back slightly. "Take that video down." My voice was quiet but sharp enough to cut glass. He blinked. "Bro, it's already out there. People shared it. It's not like I can." "I don't care," I interrupted. "Find the original. Delete it. Make a post. Say it wasn't real. I don't care what you have to do. But you're not gonna walk around wearing my uniform like some costume, Noah. Not while I'm breathing." For a second, he looked like he might argue. But then he must have seen something in my face because he sighed dramatically and said, "Fine. Whatever. I'll handle it." I turned and walked back down the steps without another word. The door slammed behind me, a sharp crack that sounded way too final. As I drove away, something ugly gnawed at my gut. Because the thing was, even if he took the video down, even if he apologized, he had already shown me who he really was. And I couldn't unsee it. I tried to calm down after that. I really did. I went home, mowed the lawn, cleaned the gutters, anything to burn off the anger coiled inside my chest like a live wire. I even convinced myself after a couple hours that maybe Noah would do the right thing. Maybe he'd post something sincere. Maybe he'd feel guilty once he really thought about it. Maybe we could move past this. I should have known better. At around 5 that afternoon, Luke, the same buddy who sent me the original video, texted me again. "Man, you gotta see this." My stomach turned before I even opened it. This time it wasn't just a video. It was a live stream. I tapped it and suddenly there was Noah, once again center stage, back at the same bar. Wearing my hat this time. The army cap I wore on my first deployment, the one Mom framed and kept in the living room until Noah must have grabbed it. The worst part? He was laughing. Making jokes. "Hey, shout out to my big bro," Noah said, grinning like a kid who thinks he's the smartest one in the room. "He's all mad 'cause I borrowed his stuff. But hey, we all serve in different ways, right?" The crowd, smaller this time, but still way too many people, cheered and laughed like it was hilarious. One guy even yelled, "Hero's a hero, man." And Noah, without missing a beat, raised his beer and said, "Cheers to that." I saw red. This wasn't some drunk mistake. This wasn't ignorance. This was mockery. He wasn't sorry. He was proud. I didn't even think. I grabbed my truck keys and drove so fast I barely remembered the trip. The bar was about 30 minutes away on the edge of town where the old highway starts breaking into farmland. I'd been there once or twice before, cheap beers, sticky floors, the kind of place you went to forget yourself. I pulled into the gravel lot just as Noah was walking outside with a bunch of his buddies, slinging jokes and backslaps like he was the star quarterback after homecoming. When he saw me, he froze. The parking lot went dead quiet. Everyone must have seen it on my face. I wasn't there to talk. I walked straight up to him. I didn't yell. I didn't swing. I just got real close so only he could hear me and said, "Take it. All of it. Off. Now." Noah blinked, glancing around like he expected someone to step in and save him. Nobody moved. He opened his mouth, probably to crack some joke, but I cut him off. "If you ever put that uniform on again," I said, voice low, "I swear on everything I have left, I'll make sure every veteran in this county knows exactly who you are." Noah's smirk faltered. He pulled the hat off his head and shoved it into my chest. Mumbled something that sounded suspiciously like, "Whatever, man." I took it. Turned. Walked away. I didn't stay to listen to the whispers. Didn't look back to see his friends' faces shift from admiration to disgust. I got in my truck, drove home, and placed the hat back on my bookshelf where it belonged. Right next to the folded flag from my first deployment. Right next to the photo of my old squad. Then I sat down on the edge of my bed, buried my face in my hands, and finally let myself feel it. Not just anger. Not just betrayal. Grief. Because that night, I realized something I hadn't wanted to face. The kid I used to protect, the kid I used to believe in, he didn't exist anymore. Maybe he never did. The next few days were silent. Noah didn't text. Didn't call. Didn't even try one of his half-hearted, "Yo bro" apologies he used to pull out when he broke something important. I told myself it was better that way. Space was good. I needed it. And yet, every time my phone buzzed, some stupid part of me hoped it was him, owning up, finally understanding how deep he had cut. It never was. Then, about a week later, Mom called. Her voice was tight, anxious. "Hey, honey. He's been asking about you." I leaned back against the wall, staring at the ceiling. "Has he?" I said, dry as dust. She hesitated. I could picture her fidgeting with the phone cord like she always did when she was nervous. "He said he wants to apologize. Properly. He's setting something up at the VFW Friday night. Said he wants to make it right." My first instinct. Laugh. The VFW? The one place in town packed wall to wall with actual veterans, men and women who bled, who buried friends, who wore those uniforms with weight and pride. He had no idea what he was walking into. "Please," Mom added softly, "give him a chance." I said I'd think about it. Hung up. Spent the rest of the day pacing my living room, wrestling with myself. Against my better judgment, against the knot in my gut that said this is going to be a disaster, I decided to go. Maybe, just maybe, he meant it this time. Friday night came fast. The VFW hall was exactly as I remembered it. Dark wood paneling, the smell of stale beer and decades-old cigarette smoke baked into the walls. The pool table still had that rip in the corner pocket. Old-timers played cards at the back tables, pausing only to grunt greetings as I walked in. I spotted Noah immediately. He was standing at the front of the room, looking like a kid about to give a book report he hadn't read. Clean-shaven, button-down shirt tucked into jeans. No uniform, thank God. Mom sat near the front, wringing her hands. A few of Noah's friends hovered awkwardly by the wall. I stayed in the back, arms crossed. Noah cleared his throat, tapping the mic. Hey everyone," he said, voice cracking slightly. "Thanks for, coming out tonight. I wanted to say something." The few people paying attention turned toward him. A guy in a Vietnam hat leaned back in his chair, arms folded, suspicious. Noah swallowed hard. "Last week," he started, "I made a mistake. I wore my brother's army uniform. I let people believe I served when I didn't. And that was wrong. Really wrong." He glanced around like he was hoping for some reaction. There was none. He stumbled, "I just wanted to feel important, you know? Like I mattered." A few murmurs rippled through the room. Mostly not good ones. "I never meant to disrespect anyone," Noah said, voice rising a little in panic. "I respect all of you so much. I was just trying to have fun. I didn't think it would blow up." The moment he said the word fun, I flinched. There it was. The heart of it. He still didn't get it. You don't have fun with stolen valor. You don't borrow other people's pain and wear it like a Halloween costume. You either earn it or you respect it. There's no middle ground. When Noah finally wrapped up, there was this heavy, awful silence. One of the old guys, a wiry Marine named Hal who had 2 purple hearts, stood up slowly, leaning on his cane. "You know what it feels like," Hal said, voice low and deadly, "to zip up your buddy in a body bag wearing that uniform?" Noah's face went pale. "You ever seen a flag handed to a crying widow, kid?" Hal continued. "You ever spend a Christmas staring at an empty chair?" Noah shook his head, voice barely a whisper. "No, sir." Hal stared him down for a long moment, then turned and walked away without another word. One by one, the other veterans followed. Quiet. Cold. They didn't yell. They didn't cuss him out. They just left him standing there, alone. It was worse than if they had shouted. Mom looked like she wanted to cry. Noah looked like he might be sick. And me. I just stood in the back, arms folded, feeling like my chest had caved in. Not with anger anymore. With pity. He hadn't just humiliated himself. He had made it impossible for me to ever look at him the same way again. I didn't talk to Noah after that night at the VFW. Not right away anyway. Not when he slumped over the mic like a scolded kid. Not when Mom begged me with her eyes. Not even when he stood in the parking lot afterward, alone, shivering in the cold without even the sense to put on a jacket. I drove home without a word. Because sometimes silence says more than shouting ever could. I figured that would be the end of it. He got humiliated. He'd learned. We'd both move on separately. But Noah had other plans. 3 days later, on a Wednesday I'll never forget, he showed up at my door. He wasn't alone. He had a box in his arms, taped sloppily, barely holding together, and this stubborn look on his face like he was about to march into battle. I opened the door, keeping my face flat. I didn't say a word. Without waiting for permission, Noah stepped inside, set the box down on my coffee table, and stood there awkwardly. I'm giving it all back, he said, gesturing at the box. I frowned. What? He started pulling things out one by one. My old army jacket. My training boots, the ones worn down to the sole. My beat-up duffel bag, still smelling faintly of sand and sweat. Even the tiny trinkets and patches I'd collected, things I thought were lost or forgotten. Turns out he hadn't just borrowed my uniform. He had been raiding my storage bins at Mom's house for months. Piece by piece, costume by costume. I stared at the pile growing on my coffee table, something dark and sad ballooning inside my chest. Look, man, Noah said, shifting nervously, I messed up. I know that. But I figured if I give it all back, maybe we can, reset. Start over. Reset. Start over. Like this was some video game he could just restart after losing too many lives. I shook my head slowly. Noah, I said, my voice tighter than I meant, you don't get it. You never will. He bristled immediately. Come on, dude, I'm trying here. I'm literally giving you everything back. What more do you want? What do I want? I echoed, my laugh dry and sharp. I want my kid brother back. The one who used to look up to me. The one who didn't think respect was something you could fake for beer money. Noah's mouth opened, then closed again. He didn't have an answer. I pointed to the box. This. I said. This isn't an apology. This is you trying to erase what you did. Like if you give me my stuff back, it fixes everything. It's not that deep, bro, he muttered under his breath. That broke me. Not that deep. Not that deep when I'd seen friends come home in flag-draped coffins. Not that deep when I'd watched men twice as brave as either of us limp off planes missing pieces of themselves. Not that deep when I'd spent sleepless nights wondering if all the sacrifice had even been worth it. I stepped back, crossed my arms tight across my chest. You need to leave, Noah. His face crumpled. What? Seriously? You need to go, I repeated, voice like stone. And don't come back until you understand what it actually means to earn something. For a long second, I thought he might argue. Then he just shook his head, scoffed under his breath, and stomped out the door without another word. The screen door banged shut behind him. I stood there for a while after he left, staring at the sad pile of gear on my table. Everything he had tried to return. Everything that suddenly felt heavier than it ever had overseas. The house felt too quiet after he left. I sat on the edge of the couch, staring at that pile of gear like it was a grave. A grave for the brother I thought I had. A grave for the years I spent believing there was still a little bit of that wide-eyed kid left in him, the one who used to watch me lace up my boots before drill weekends and say, one day, I'm gonna be just like you. Somewhere along the way, he decided it was easier to pretend than to be. And now here I was, left holding the pieces. I thought about throwing it all back into the box, taping it up, and shoving it into the attic. Out of sight, out of mind. But instead, I stood up slowly, walked over, and started sorting through it. The jacket first, stiff with age but still carrying the faint scent of barracks soap and dust. The boots scuffed, the laces frayed where they had been tied and retied in a dozen different FBs. The duffel bag, ripped at one corner, patched with an old sewing kit during a layover in Kuwait. Each piece wasn't just cloth and leather and thread. Each piece was a memory. A life lived. A story earned. You don't get to give that back. You either carry it or you don't. By the time I finished, it was dark outside. I grabbed a beer from the fridge, sat out on the front steps, and stared up at the stars. The quiet buzz of summer bugs filled the night air. For a moment, I let myself grieve. Not just for Noah. But for the version of our family I had built in my head, the one where we could always, somehow, find our way back to each other. I realized then that forgiveness doesn't always come dressed in apologies. Sometimes it's silent. Sometimes it's simply the choice not to let someone else's actions rot you from the inside out. I wasn't ready to forgive Noah yet. Maybe I never would be. But I was ready to let go of the version of him I had been clinging to. He wasn't the little brother who needed my protection anymore. He was a grown man, capable of making his own mistakes and facing the consequences. And me? I had my own life to live. My own battles to fight. My own uniform heavy with memories, scarred and sacred to honor the right way. I took a long sip of my beer, the bitterness sharp on my tongue. Somewhere down the road, maybe Noah would figure himself out. Maybe he'd learn that respect can't be borrowed, faked, or stolen. Maybe. But that wasn't my battle anymore. I set the beer down, stood up, and walked back inside, leaving the night, the past, and all the noise outside where it belonged. I wasn't just a soldier. I was a man who had finally learned when to put down the weight that wasn't his to carry.